What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lock and Cash podcast. Friday, October 17th. This is our final market rundown of the week. If you're new here, my name is Jeff. This is Lock and Cash Sports. This video, which comes to you on Fridays, is kind of our wrap up of the week for week 7. This is the video where I've been able to handicap every game over the last few days. And instead of just like early in the week where I provide you like early leans, some thoughts about situational spots, in this video, I can give you stronger opinions, more definite information, and we can just kind of run down where I'm at basically in terms of each game. So we started off our week last night with a nice win on the Bengals. It was our smallest pick of the week, but we did cash Cincy plus 5.5. So we start the week 1-0. That's nice. There are 3 plays released for the weekend. A 1 money line parlay, one side, which is a 1 p.m. Eastern kick on Sunday, and then another side, which is a Monday Night Football pick. So if you're interested in those, there are deals down below in the profile. I've also already logged one of them, a free pick. The Monday Night Football one is logged on the Action app for completely free. That's a great tool to have just for their info articles, and then you'll get notifications when I log free picks. So check that out down below as well. Let's start things off with the London game, the Rams taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Still stuck here at Rams -3. I told you guys earlier in the week that I leaned Rams, and I still do, but we really need to find out if Puka is going to play in this game. It looks like he will play, but potentially be limited. The Jaguars are one of these teams we faded them last week, and I think there's a little bit more regression coming. They've been feasting on explosive plays on offense here and there, along with turnovers on defense. You're now facing a Rams team that does a pretty good job of avoiding both of those things, just like the Seahawks last week, just like the Chiefs in the previous week, but the Jaguars were fortunate to get out of that game with a win. Another thing worth noting here that I did when I was talking to a buddy of mine who's very good with this stuff, he mentioned that the Rams are going to be getting in late for this game. LA will be arriving for some reason tomorrow, Saturday, the day before the game, while the Jags have been there all week. Remember, the Jaguars do this game every single year. So I have to, not that I am smarter than Sean McVay and company, but you got to think the Jaguars, who have done this many times before, as an organization, just simply know what they're doing when it comes to these London games. They've arrived a week earlier. So maybe there's a little bit of an edge there. I still lean Rams, but I will probably have nothing on this game. Raiders taking on the Chiefs. This number has pretty much been steady throughout the week. KC -11.5, some 12s, 12.5s out there. It's kind of been bouncing around. I think it's very simple here. If you like KC, you want to get obviously the best number you can, 11.5. If you are thinking about playing the Raiders in this game, maybe you get a 13. I'm not sure that you get it. I know 13 popped up at one point of the week. It was gone quick, but that would be the next key number that you look for if you like the Raiders. I just think in this game, if you really believe what we've seen from the Chiefs offense is here to stay, like their offense is back to get Rashee Rice back now. If you think that explosiveness is going to be there and throwing the ball downfield, then, I don't see why they can't cover this spread, right? I mean, teams have beaten up on the Raiders all year. Why can't the Chiefs do it as well if they're going to play this well offensively? So this is a number that maybe in the last 1.5 years, you might be hesitant to lay with a team like the Chiefs who were winning very low scoring games. But the way they look now, 30 points, back-to-back weeks, 30 plus, if they put up 30 plus in this game, it should be a cover. Miami taking on Cleveland. Browns -2.5 at home. This was 3. Buyback on Miami. This has now settled at 2.5. I make the number 2, so not surprised that that's kind of where the market decided to stay. 37 is the total. 36.5 starting to pop up. That's really the story of this game, guys. Miami's basically in shambles. The Browns have been a really good defensive team, but we'll see what. And also keep in mind, this is only the 3rd home game for the Browns. I know I say only, we've only played 6 games, but they've had a brutal road schedule. They had to go 3 road games, also play an international game. And the only 2 games they played at home, they lost by a point to Joe Burrow in week 1, and they beat the Green Bay Packers outright. So just watch out for that. This defense is really, really good at home. And, maybe Dylan Gabriel gets a little boost. Everyone's been able to run the ball on the Dolphins, so Judkins should have a good game. But the weather is the real story here. The total ticking down is because you're expecting lots of rain in this one and 20-plus mile-per-hour winds with gusts approaching even more than that. So keep an eye on this total. If you want to bet under in this game, you better grab it now. I think it's going to go down even further. If you want to bet over in this game, be patient. Probably wait till the day of or the night before and get probably a flat 36 or a 35 in this one. Patriots taking on the Tennessee Titans. Pats -7 on the road, 42.5 is your total. Obviously, Callahan being fired is the big story in this game, but also Vrabel returning to Tennessee. Initially when earlier in the week, I said, with the head coach fired angle, you kind of have to look immediately at the home dog getting 7. The more I've thought about this game, the more I've looked into it over the last couple of days, I kind of lean New England now to just blow them out. I'm just, Callahan was a really bad coach. He was one of the worst coaches we've seen in a long time in the NFL. But what you saw on the field, I think, is a little bit deeper than that. This team is not good offensively. I just don't think because remember, he wasn't calling plays. He gave up play calling duties. So I just don't think just suddenly getting rid of him, it might fix the morale, the vibes a bit, but I'm not sure that it's going to solve all your problems. So, and the other thing about this is if you had a team on the other side that had no relation to this Tennessee Titans organization, that was just a team coming in that was kind of middle of the road. The Patriots are slightly above average, but if there was just a team that was kind of, cruising through the sea, but this is just a very high motivation spot for Vrabel, which is why I don't like backing the home dog in this one. Could they still pull it off? Of course, this could be a 3-point game, a 4-point game, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. But I'm just going to stay away because I can make it equally strong case, in my opinion, for each side of this game. And that's why I'm just off of it. Saints taking on the Bears. Bears -4.5 now. There's been some money in the market come in on New Orleans. I agree with that move. Did lean them earlier in the week. Thought about playing them. I got pretty high on this Saints side, especially with the way the Bears won that game on Monday Night Football. They benefit from the turnover late. They take advantage of it. But not just that, they've won 2 straight games. Remember, they beat the Raiders by 1 point in similar fashion, then went into their bye week, then came out and stole another game. So the Bears, even though they've looked okay, but 2 games on the road that probably they should not have won either one of those games. So I think they're playing with fire a little bit, and I think the Saints have been quietly they've given an A for effort. You can't argue with that. They're playing hard for more, and I think that matters. So I think they can run the ball a little bit in this game. I think Rattler can make some plays. Rattler and Williams, remember, have history going back to their Oklahoma days. So I think there'll be some motivation there for Spencer Rattler to play a really good game in this one. So definitely strong lean to the Saints. Not sure if I end up being on it, but definitely a strong lean. Eagles -1.5 to 2 across the board, basically against the Minnesota Vikings. Told you I liked the Eagles in the spot. I did end up playing it. The market actually went against me in this. I was pretty surprised. I thought this was going to cross 3, especially because I'm expecting, Jalen Carter is going to play in this game. Expecting some good news on the offensive line. Landon Dickerson is practicing. You might get healthier on both sides of the ball, but there were several, I know for a fact, several releases from pick services on the Minnesota Vikings, which pushed this line down. I think at one point you could have got a 1, which is crazy to me, but 1.5. I still like the Eagles. I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to cover the spread. And I really like the spot for them to just get right against this Vikings defense. We've seen this a lot with the Eagles over the last few years, or actually mainly the last 2 years, where they have these droughts and struggles, and then they just kind of put it all together. I think this is one of those spots. You're going on the road, right? So there's a little bit less pressure, not in front of your home fans. It's a defense that you don't really see often, but Hurts last year was really good against the blitz. In his career, he's been okay versus zone. He's been quote unquote better versus man, but you're going to see a lot of zone. You're going to see a lot of blitz in this game. I just think this is a game where you get the run game going with Saquon if you get healthier on the offensive line. And I really expect a strong defensive performance here going up against either Wentz or it's probably going to be Wentz, but if you throw McCarthy in there, I love this even more. But going up against Carson Wentz, he's going to have to deal with that pass rush with Carter and Davis stuffing the running game. I think this is a great spot for the Philly defense, and that's why I bought on them in this game. Panthers taking on the Jets. Jets took a little bit of money at 2, brought this down to 1.5. Still not a game that I would touch. No thoughts have changed on this one since earlier in the week. If there was any way I would play this game, I would look to the over because I just think both defenses are not very good. We've seen the Panthers defense be way more competitive at home than they are on the road. So maybe the Jets get something going offensively, but the Jets defense is equally bad. So maybe a little over 41.5. 41 is actually the best number available. So maybe a little over 41 in this game, but not loving anything about it. Chargers taking on the Colts, LA -1.5 still at home. This did get as high as 2 and as low as 1. So it's important to note that the market has been essentially buying back and forth on these teams on either side of this game. Totals still at 48.5, still lean under. Still like Indian teasers I did dig up some stuff in this game. Like, for example, Jim Harbaugh, he's never lost 4 straight games against the spread. He's currently on a 3-game ATS losing streak. So this is a spot where he has never lost. I think it's only come up one time, but he's never lost against the spread in this spot. Joe Alt practicing for the Chargers, I think is huge. If they could get him back, you're gonna, I said it earlier in the week, but I think you could make a case to sell on both teams. But I will say, if the Chargers get if Joe Alt gets back in this game, Chargers are a little bit healthier, Johnston maybe back in this, then you're looking a little bit better. All right. Because the Colts are going to be down a couple of guys. I think Ward's going to be out for this one. The Colts are banged up a little bit on defense. Daniel Jones, how long does this continue? I saw a very interesting nugget about Daniel Jones that he's throwing to his first read on passing plays, his first read, like over 90% of the time. I mean, that can't continue. So the Chargers are usually pretty good at forcing you to make those types of decisions in the pocket. We'll see what happens. But like I said, I can make a case for it. I think this is the toughest game on the board to pick, which is why I'm just going to stay away from it. I think you can make a case for either side, and you're not getting any key numbers. It's a 1-point spread. You're basically doing this, I think, in this game, flipping a coin. So Giants taking on the Broncos, Denver -7 at home, 40.5 your total. Like I said earlier in the week, like Broncos in teasers, like them in parlays. I have them, and that's one of my parlay legs is the Denver Broncos to just win straight up. I even like, honestly, there was a 6.5 earlier in the week. It got bought right back up quickly. I think the Broncos are going to win by 10 plus, really. I mean, in my opinion, the Giants, I think, are fool's gold with this whole Dart Scatabo thing. This is, you can argue, the best defense. This is the Broncos are certainly a top 2 defense in the NFL. Denver, Cleveland, make your pick, whatever. But the Broncos are so good defensively. And, to take the Giants to keep this close, I could understand making a case for the 7. For them to win this game, though, you're asking the rookie QB, rookie running back to go in there, steal a game. I just don't see it happening against this defense. I think they're going to give him hell. I think they're going to have Dart running around for his life. And I think they eventually will cover the 7, even though I don't love the Broncos offensively. They've yet to get things going on that side of the ball. But I do think this is a good spot for them to put up some points. So I like lean Denver -7, but I'm just playing them in a parlay. Commanders taking on the Cowboys. Washington -1.5. Those 2.5s that we talked about earlier in the week are gone when I mentioned teasing Dallas. One of the things that I did hope we would get in this game, which has basically kept me off this game, was I was wanting Washington to hold on and win that Monday Night Football game in hopes that we would get a 3 here, but it didn't come to fruition. They lose the game. Line ends up getting hit the other way, and now we have a smaller 1-point spread. So I'm not teasing Dallas. I'm not playing them straight up. I do lean that way for both of the, I lean both of those ways, but I can't do it. Especially, the teaser, I don't hate it, but I will say the 54.5 total should, if you've been teasing long enough, and if you're just overall a sharp better, you have to take note of the total here. The points are worth less. They're not worth as much when you have a total that high where you're expecting a shootout. So just be careful with that, but lean Cowboys in the game. Packers -6.5 or 7 on the road at Arizona. Not much here. Wouldn't touch it, just like earlier in the week. I think you're either getting Brissett in his second start, which is not going to be as good, or you're getting back Kyler Murray against this Packers defense. Packers offense hasn't looked great on the road. Just a game where I understand if you want to take them straight up and add them in some teasers or parlays, I get that, but I just wouldn't touch this game. Atlanta taking on the 49ers. San Francisco -2 down to 1.5 in some spots on the road. 47.5 is your total. The big question here is who's starting. We don't know yet if it's going to be Mac Jones or Purdy. Purdy's been in practice. If I had to guess, guy, I think you're getting Mac Jones in this game. I just don't see, like, the 49ers are not in any position. You're 4-2. All right, you had a tough loss at Tampa, but they're a good team. You already stole a win with Mac Jones. You upset the Rams. I don't think you need to rush Purdy back here and risk re-aggravating that injury. I think it's going to be Mac Jones again against Penix. Now, the problem here is it's not a great spot for either team, but it's certainly a worse spot for the Falcons. All right, the Falcons just played. Remember, the Falcons to me are just, in my power ratings, a slightly above average team. So that game you saw on Monday Night Football, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking back at the end of the year and like that was the best game the Falcons played all season long, where they upset the Bills, beat them up in the first half, held on defensively in the second half. The second half of that game, I think, was more indicative of what Atlanta really is. They really gave Buffalo lots of chances to get back in it. And it looked like Penix hurt his hand. There was some talk about that after the game. If that's really an injury, it could aggravate him here on the road. But Kyle Shanahan, home chalk, bad spot, less than 40% against the spread. Just a game that I won't touch. Although I will say, if you're looking for a teaser leg, I think Atlanta is good up to 8. I like that because I don't think either team's going to win this game by margin. Over to Monday Night Football, Lions -5.5 against the Buccaneers. We now see sixes pop up. Interesting how I mentioned last week, I said I make this line 6.5. It's one of the biggest edges of the week. And now here we go. We go 4.5, 5, 5.5. Now we're seeing 6. I think you're closing here at 6 or 6.5. The Buccaneers severely banged up on offense. You're not going to have Evans in this game. You're not going to have Godwin. You're not going to have Egbuka. You're not going to have Bucky Irving. The Lions, yes, they're banged up in the secondary, but how do you take advantage of it with everything I just said? I think this is one of those smash spots where Detroit puts up a bunch of points at home, runs away with the game. They're 11-0 straight up ATS. After their last 11 losses, they're coming off of a loss. They're 9-3 ATS at home as a favorite of less than a touchdown. I think everything here points to the classic Dan Campbell Detroit bounce back spot where they just blow the team out of the water. So I like the Lions in that one. And in the late game, you've got Houston taking on Seattle. The 3.5s, which I leaned last week and actually played, those have been taken out of the market. We're now 3 across the board, 40.5 total up to 41.5. I think the hook is going to be really important in this game. I see a very low scoring game where it probably ends on a field goal. The Seahawks have not been good against the spread at home under McDonald, 3-9 ATS. There is a system actually, since this is the last game. Let's pull up the system I saw on the Texans. It's not a crazy system, but it's a small sample size, but here it is. When you have a road underdog, coming off of their bye week, and they're playing a team that just came off of a win or is on a winning streak, so they could win between 1 and 3 games in a row. And it's non-divisional, and you have the rest advantage. You're coming off the bye, and the spread is less than a touchdown. These teams over the last 15 times, they've gone 10-5 against the spread. So a little something there. 8 and it's on an 8-3 run, last 11. So that's 73%. Just a little something there on the Texans. But aside from the data, I don't like to get too crazy with the systems. But I just like the spot for them. I think coming out of the bye, maybe you fix a little bit of your offensive problems during that time. You still got a great defense, especially in the secondary, and that's where Seattle's been killing teams. So I think ball stays on the ground with the Seahawks in this game. I think the Texans, it's going to be tough offensively, but the Seahawks are not, they're still banged up in the secondary. And maybe you get some plays here or there. I just think this is one of those, 20-17, 21-19, 17-14, one of those games. I think I like getting Texans plus 3.5. All right, guys, that's it for the week. Like I said, we do have 3 releases out for week 7. We're already want to know with the Bengals. 5 college football releases too. Maybe I'll do a college football video later on today go over some of the games for Saturday. So if you're interested, there are deals waiting for you down below in the description. There's like 50% off a month. You can buy the season pass if you want, whatever you'd like. But even if you don't, support the channel by just hitting like, subscribe, drop a comment. Let me know what you guys like this week. And thanks as always for watching.